Today we are taking this Catty Noir doll. This isn't the one I actually use, this is my personal one, but we're turning it into a commission for my mom's friend. Okay, so in reality the first thing I did was chop off all of the pink hair I wasn't going to use, but then I cut off the ears using a carving tool I own. Trial and error, honestly, to try and get these things shaved out into the head so I could fill them, but in the end it ended up not working very well. I got that done up, I needed to fill in that tail hole, which whatever plug I used ended up falling out about 20 million times during this process, but I also decided to try and shave down as much of the fur on the legs and wrists as I could. Decided to take off the hands. Love y'all. And I love the mold of the nails on Catty Noir. This is a mix-up of the skin tone. I ended up lightening it 3 million trillion times, it felt like. The woman I'm basing this off of has pretty light skin. She is very beautiful though. And honestly, she's a very pretty woman. Tested in comparison to my own skin tone here, but it was a whole lot of just tap it on and see what color it ended up being. I ended up keeping this paint palette wet for about a week while I was painting her. Me bending her to basically every single position in the kuma, whatever it's called, in order to paint every nook and cranny. And that damn tail plug kept falling out. Here's the beginning of the reroot process. I consistently was using a paintbrush that I had a needle jammed into, and it did not work very well. This doll ended up breaking my rerooting needle about 4 times before I broke down and bought a more professional one online. Cut that large hank into smaller ones, and these hairs I'm using for different projects. That one was for a Damien and Lynn, this one is for a Valerie, and this last one is for a Kia, which you will probably be seeing next. And this is a really sped up version of probably 2-ish hours of me trying to reroot while watching YouTube, obviously. The needle I was using proceeded to tear up my thumb, so I honestly stopped the project for a few days to let the skin heal. is what I had by the time I got tired of the needle breaking most of the root middle. Me pulling up my reference image to do the face up, I ended up starting with a mechanical pencil, forgot what it was called, and moved on with acrylics in order to get more of the detailing right. I didn't water them down at all because I didn't feel like it, quite frankly. I don't like taking a long time building up layers. I'd rather it look a little imperfect. The main thing that bothered me about this was the fact that I could not get the eyebrows even for the life of me. She had a little bit of like a quirked eyebrow the whole time. I tend to use my thumb as my paint palette, and here's a real big close-up of that, but I will tend to put paint on my hand. I don't care if my hand skin oils are messing with it. This is me. Started with general outlining and filling in the pupils, but I had to go back over my outlines because my brush was too thick. I have found a few smaller brushes that I think would be better for my next face up. See that she used some really thick eyeliner during this section until I end up trying to mix up a skin color that is a little grayer than her actual one in order to try and fix it as much as possible. Wanted the eyes to have a little bit of shine, so here's this metallic color shift paint I've had for years now. Me mixing up the colors for her eyes. I wanted that metallic in there to give it a lightness, and then I mixed up a little bit of brown with one of the original ones in order, well, I mixed black in with it to get it to be a little darker. Side note, this Ladybug palette, I have a bunch of them, and I've had them literally since like 7th grade. Coloring in that eye, and I kind of disregarded the pupil I had already drawn previously so that I could get these irises as close to the same size as possible. I also tried to get her to look in the same direction. That part didn't quite work out. I tried to mix up, it is a lot grayer of a color than the actual doll's tone, but it's okay, it'll be fine. Then just don't look at it. bags that I use wrapping her hair, and then another one that I'm putting my brush against. I have like 4 of those in my room. I use so much acrylic paint on everything. One of my blankets is actually stained with acrylic paint because I spilled a bunch of brown on it, and now it's just everywhere. The biggest battle was trying to make sure that she was looking in the correct direction without like erasing all of the eye. See that I rotate her about 30,000 times. Just constantly, she's spinning right around, she's on the zipper. This was just about the final look for it until I decided to move on to the lips. She looks a little bit like an addict, but I wanted the lips to have a shine too, so I ended up adding a glittery kind of glitter glue paint stuff that I've had for quite a few years as well at this point. I do a little bit of a touch-up on the eyes as I'm working on this as well. Here's me adding the actual glitter glue. It ended up muddling the middle part of the lip a little bit. And this was actually my first time ever actually using a pattern for doll clothes. I ended up tracing it a few times wrong while I was doing this, but I ended up figuring it out by the end. This was the t-shirt pattern because the doll I wanted to give 2 outfits, a kind of prim and proper outfit with cute heels and more of a lazy day outfit with just jeans and a t-shirt. This is a curvy Barbie doll pattern that ended up fitting Catty Noir pretty much perfectly. It just got a little tight around the hips, but that was fine. Pin down this so that I could sew it, but I ended up giving up on that honestly and just tracing the pattern straight onto my practice fabric from then on. The pink leopard fabric I'm using right here is my practice fabric, obviously. Every pattern I tried to size up or size down is traced on this so that I can figure it out before finalizing it with a good fabric. And here we get to the truest, hardest part of this was not burning the doll's hair, because the brown hair could be straightened. It seemed to do perfectly fine with my tiny little purple straightener. That stupid pink hair kept burning. There's a giant burnt chunk. Well, not really giant, but there's a little burnt chunk that's stuck in it. And I spent a good 30 minutes trying to cut it down to a length where it wasn't obnoxiously long and also didn't look unfinished. In all honesty, a lot of this hair is rooted very sparsely because I could not care less about getting it to stay as good as possible, I guess. And you can see me trying to brush through that burnt chunk up here. I got it figured out, but she did fall off the cup I was trying to style her on like 30,000 times. And for the pink hair, I ended up just kind of rubbing my my straightener over it and trying to see if it would go away from the face that way. I got it to kind of stay, but I think truly boil washing it probably would have worked better. But I didn't trust my face up to survive that. Final look and length on the hair. Now for the pants, I ended up sizing up the curvy Barbie pattern. You can see me pointing it out here, and it ended up making these types of pants where it was perfect in the legs but way too small in the hips on the doll. You can see that here where I could not get it over her calves. It would go over the full leg, so I knew it was just the hips that mostly needed to be sized up. This is my process for doing that. I took the original length for the pants top, which only went from about her midway to about the beginning of one thigh, so I just kind of measured that out longer in order to get it to be the full length around the waist that I needed. And I ended up taking the normal pant leg, cutting it down because it was too long, and widening it so that I could have that wide leg look. And here's more of the process for the shoes and the shirt. And you can see that I cut out too many of the pattern and I kind of toss those aside. These are a part of the ILY Disney Stitch doll package clothes thingy, and those came with the original Catty. I trimmed down a lot of the little excess thingies with my little razor blade in order to get them to be a good smoothness for what I wanted. Didn't really want a Stitch logo on the doll. I used random pens and pencils to hold these shoes while I worked so I wouldn't end up cutting myself. Learned that back in middle school, summer school art class. I accidentally cut through a little bit of my thumb. Hurt really bad. And that key showing up as me trying to show you guys that I was keeping it. I cut the little charm off of the belt. Could not think of the word. Off the belt. And ended up trying to paint that silver later. I am showing all the different things I'm painting in this. The Stitch shoes I wanted darker, the Catty shoes I wanted to be pink and green, and the belt I wanted to be silver. Pink and green like that jacket, which was just shown. Also some purple, but I don't know how much of that I incorporated into the heels. I put more of that on the stitches. Took a good 2 or so layers to get everything pretty consistent as I had wanted it, and the Stitch shoes, honestly, I had to mix up a whole new soul color because it kept getting overdone. Right in kind of speedrun territory because I'm tired of recording. Made the shirt, put a little splotch on it, look at the cute ass fit, got the holes in the jeans, the Stitch shoes. I kind of wanted to make her vape, but I didn't have time. But I like the way the shoes turned out, did purple laces, and then this is the second fit with the green and pink shoes with the original Catty Noir dress and a silver belt. Here's her T-posing with the jacket with the dress, and I painted the doors on this black from them being originally blue, and I plan on putting the doll, minus the chipping sadly, inside of it. I included the original person's tattoos, and I'm keeping the key with it so there can be a little blind box experience for her. I used paper and I colored it and then cut it and taped it around the bags of stuff that I had folded up pretty carefully so that I could have it as an actual opening blind box. She pretty much received a nude doll plus a bunch of little pieces of paper and a stand, which she loved. Actually, she points out in the very end of the video, you can see what she sent me about her loving it. And this is when I handed it over to my mom to give to the person. It has the taped up key and the little things locking it up. And this is the person receiving it. She ended up loving it and loved both outfits. The final doll is not with me, it's with its owner, but I have something else that I'm wanting to announce this video, and that is Birdie's bookshelf. It is going to be a part of this where I read books borrowed mostly by my friend, but some I own myself. Bye!